Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet. Today I'm back in the US, but I've got a number of topics associated with the UK that I wanted to cover in Short Funk. This topic is slightly out of order, but I wanted to record on it while it was still relatively fresh in my mind. I travelled to a place called Sidcup in order to meet some model rail radio listeners. And on the train to Sidcup, sitting directly behind me, was a boy and his nanny. And the nanny was, I think, probably Polish, and the boy was very definitely British, and he was telling her stories in a choose-your-own-adventure format. And through listening to this, I had two thoughts. Firstly, obviously, that was incredibly novel for this boy to have this kind of choose-your-own-adventure game. It was a game based in various, cities, and I guess what would be called hive worlds in the Games Workshop vernacular. And he told stories associated with the various locations and also various owners of hotels, and the hotels were run as underworld cities ultimately. It was all very fascinating. They were on the train for probably 10 minutes at most, and I sat I was looking out the window, but also observed their conversation because it fascinated me that these kind of narrative, storytelling, role-playing game things exist in a generation. He must have been maybe 6 or 7 probably, potentially 8 or 9. And one of the thoughts that came to me through this as well was that through wargaming, or role-playing games, but typically in wargaming as well, the characteristics that a character will have, the numerical characteristics, and in some cases the special abilities that the character has, embodies the character in something which is distinctly different than, some static entity. The attribution of statistics, the attribution of various abilities to each character means that when the character is played in a game, purely through these rules, purely through the ability to ascribe numbers and abilities to the character, gives the character a life of its own. It's almost like a simulation entity that when these characters have these particular statistics in the games, they develop abilities that can only be intuited through playing the game. In playing the game, the character will use various roles that the player will test, and this will have certain adverse effects and positive effects and probabilities associated with it. But what fascinated me through this was that this boy wasn't using dice at all. He was using his imagination, but he was creating a narrative which was very much based on kind of free-form adventure. And the whole thing struck me as very unlike an experience that I would typically have in the US travelling by train. Obviously, if he had a Polish nanny, it probably meant that his parents had a certain degree of affluence, and also his whole perspective on the world in terms of creating this fantasy world and describing it to a great degree of detail, I just found absolutely fascinating. It was a small vignette in my time in the UK that I wanted to share with the Short Funk listening audience. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.